Hey, we're live. So I should probably give my spiel, but it hasn't come up yet, and I don't remember it. But let's just break with tradition and not do a spiel today. What do you say, Vince?
Let's do it. Let's just get right into things because
Let's go crazy.
Yeah.
So I went to go create the Hangouts today, and I'm adjusting my lights, so I'm much prettier. This is the pretty light that I have. I don't get the ugly lights from Lowe's. I get the pretty lights.
Pretty light.
They have a person that comes by and does my makeup. It's not working. Never mind. I just gotta go super bright. I just look very red. Anyway, so I went to go make the Hangout today, and I saw this warning from Google YouTube saying that now you have to use YouTube's live streaming thingy.
Okay.
And it said that you had to start using it by like September 1st or something. But when I went to I thought, okay, well, I'll still use the old Hangout way. And when I went to the webpage on my laptop, there was nothing there except for, here's how you do things using the YouTube new way. And so I got it all set up. And then when I came here, got to the home studio and set it and started plugging in, it didn't work. And it wanted me to use Adobe's Flash Media Live encoder and stuff. And remember the days back when we were trying to improve the quality and we were using Flash Media Live and everybody would log in through Skype and it was all confusing?
I do remember those days. Those were not our halcyon days.
No. And I think we're heading back to them. I think we're being forced back into that. So
wow. Okay.
I'm going to use Hangouts to the last possible minute. But the good news is that I came, when I got home, I brought up Safari, and I save a link for Google Hangouts, and they haven't destroyed that link. So it took me right to the old-fashioned Hangouts on Air page, and I just recreated the whole thing. But that means that everybody has to refresh if they want to watch the show live. And we got some people in the chat room. We got 6 people in the chat room, and I think they're refreshing. How you been, Vince?
Oh, man. I've been going a little crazy, actually. Just personal life things. Don't want to drag this on too much, but in about a year, I'm going to get married, which means I am getting dragged around looking at things like wedding vendors and just all this stuff that has to be done in order to make a wedding happen. Who knew?
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. I'm looking forward to after the actual wedding. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being married, but all this stuff that you have to go through for the actual wedding ceremony, geez.
The best part is all the cake you have to eat.
Oh, I'll take that. I have no problem with that. I can go to all the cake tastings that we want. I want to make sure that all of these vendors are properly vetted when it comes to providing proper sweets. I got my sweet tooth. Sorry.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, it's a serious affair, and it should be treated so, and you should eat all the cake possible to make sure that it's good.
Yes, cake. Love that cake. I'm not sure if I'll like the year-old cake. I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah, I know.
But did you actually do that?
No.
No.
First of all, I ate the entire cake, so there was none left. So that's my tip to you: is eat the whole thing, and there's nothing left to suffer through a year later.
Okay. Cool,
you only gain a couple pounds. Get the diet cake. That's my, the kind of cake that doesn't cause any weight gain. They have
diet cake. I don't know. Do you think cake zero is a possibility, or maybe
crystal cake?
Crystal cake. That actually sounds vaguely like a wedding cake option.
Yeah, but I don't think it's invisible or see-through. I was going to say that when I got married, I was super nervous about one thing and one thing only: having to dance in front of a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, dancing.
Right?
You nervous? I am incredibly nervous, mostly because I'm a music guy. I understand music. I understand dance theoretically. I'm not sure about the practical application of dance. I've got good money on me falling maybe twice during that first dance. Maybe I'll step on the dress. We'll see. There's good odds on that too.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, that's why I tell people I'm a musician, so I didn't have to dance.
Yeah.
That was the idea. So
gotta practice.
So we have Mike is in New York. He's just jet setting around, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been going everywhere. He's in New York right now. He was in Europe, being all I don't know, international, all fancy.
Where'd he go before? Let's talk about him because I think he's watching the show.
Oh man, is he?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that he visited Scotland, and Scotland is a beautiful place. Oh, right, Fringe Festival in Scotland. That's what was going on. So he likes going to that thing. I think he actually wrote a little blog post on his blog about visiting there, checking out the festival. Little cultural nourishment. It's always a good idea to get out and know what else is out there on the fringes, as it were.
Ah, I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Apropos.
Well, you know what? Why don't we dig into the first topic? You want to do the GameSoundCon stuff?
All right, yeah, let's talk about that.
La Survey. Would you like to do the introduction?
Yes. So, just this past weekend, GameSoundCon revealed some information, as they are wont to do every year. They put out this survey. They ask game industry professionals, salary guys, freelance guys, hobbyists as well, hey, give us some information so that we can disseminate it to the audio industry at large. And it just came out this past year's survey. So the game audio industry survey tracks compensation, working conditions, contract terms, and production information for the video game, music, and sound industry. If you go to their website, GameSoundCon.com, you'll find the game audio industry survey. And there's lots and lots of numbers and graphs and charts, and it seems pretty cool. It's been a useful thing to look through and try to get some interesting info out of it. Although I got to say that the one bit of info that I got is that for as much as the game industry is a thing that moves, the actual details and how the game industry works is still pretty slow on the uptake when it comes to these things. So, for example, people talking about getting stuff for music on the back end. Okay, we've been talking about that for a few years now, but that's still this thing that is a relatively small part of contract terms, and it seems to be growing, but it's still just a portion of that. There's a lot of interesting details here, but I think for the most part, they point to how stable the game audio industry really has been for the last few years.
Yeah, that is a true statement.
This is mostly about music, it must be said. So GameSoundCon is, of course, a conference for game sound, but the survey does seem to have a lot of stuff with regards to music. And actually, they made some interesting comments about the relationship between music and sound design and music. Let's see here. 3/4 of game composers also do sound design, and I don't know what exactly to think about that.
Yeah.
Because actually, I am a guy that does both music composition and sound design, but I do feel like there's certain types of sound design that I can do, and certain kinds of sound design that I actually would prefer not to do because that is not my expertise.
Right.
And then, game comps, and then the same thing also applies to music composition. Certainly there are things that I can do, things that I can't do. Integration and programming by composers. This is actually a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because I care a lot about that. 47% of composers also did either integration work or some programming or both. So that's cool. 15% of composers also provided scripting or programming work, and 30% of composers also filled the role of audio director.
So is this saying that specialization is starting to be not the best idea for a successful career?
It seems like that.
I mean, if you're going to get into audio, but that's been something we've known. Well, I can't say that because some people are specialized and are doing rather well. But certainly in my career, I started as just composer, and to get more gigs, I took on sound design and found that, well, mostly the desire was to go in-house, and I couldn't get an in-house job as a composer. So I went with sound design to get an in-house job. And, found out, I mean, I want to say, it could be misconstrued the way I'm saying it, that I, think more highly of composition than sound design, but I love them both equally. And that sounds diplomatic, but it's true. And we've said it before, at least I have, that in some ways sound design is more creative than composition, because you don't have to fight the temps and you can just create. Everybody wants something fresh, even if it's something mundane like a car sound or a gun. They want something new. So you really do delve, at least for me, I delve almost more deeply into, it's a different type of creativity, but for a construction creativity on sound design, yet a mimicking creativity on composition.
Yeah, that's true. Starting with sound-alikes, starting with reference material for music, that's a whole lot more common than, well, actually, there was at least one game that I worked on. I mean, this was a small game many years back, but what they did was they actually ripped all the wave files from a couple of different PC games, and then they threw them into their game and said, okay, this is going to be the sound of this game. Hey, Vince, can you just make stuff that sounds just like this, except it's not that?
Oh.
Please. And I'm like, oh, really? This is what you want. I gotcha.
So here's an obvious question. Say I'm a composer, I'm a sound designer, I'm doing implementation. Obviously, we in audio know that those are a number of different hats. I could see when you're negotiating your contract for price that the person you're negotiating with will try to lump that into just one job. So I wonder how we could express that so that we can say, hey, we're not just going to charge, let's go $750 for a finished minute of music, because I'll also be implementing it. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to go $850, or something like that. I'm always fearful that explaining to somebody all of the steps that are going to go into this, and then tacking on a price is actually going to lose me the gig. What do you think? How would you handle that?
Ooh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, the all-in budget thing is just such a popular thing, and it makes things easy. But I mean, usually the way I like to do it with my side gigs is well, for me, I have to be honest with myself first about how much time can I actually spend on this project. Because I do have a day gig. I cannot let stuff get in the way of that. So it's like, okay, you guys want something of such and such scale. I have a feeling that I can do this basically by working between 5 and 10 hours during any given week on the weekends. Okay, cool. Let's do that. And so I'll actually give them a rate that is commensurate with what's a reasonable hourly rate.
Yeah.
And hey, this is what I'm giving you. This is the work that I'm giving you. You obviously like me when it comes to the type of work and the quality of work that I do. This is what it will take to do it. And I'll be like, okay, it's probably going to be maybe 50 or 60 hours of work over these next 2 months in order to get this thing done. And because of that, I think that this would be a fair thing to put into this contract here. So going with the hourly thing, I find really useful, not just for them, but also for myself, because that's the only way I can really be honest with myself.
And you're including in the hourly everything you're going to do, right? So it's composition, it's sound design, it's implementation.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. But that number's got to be hard. Do you ever have anybody take that number and then I had a client do this once. He took my hourly number, and then he said, that means you're going to make off of me, let's just make up a number, $250,000 a year. And that was his argument. And I thought, but I'm not going to work, how long's your project going to be? The opening statement was that you need, this much work done. And I've told you it'll be about 60 hours. But then they countered with the hourly price would equate to this ridiculously high number.
Right.
And I guess in some ways, even though let's say 60 is the number of hours that I was going to do, I guess in some ways what they're saying is that even for 60 hours, that's too much an hour. But instead of saying it that way, they tried to make this huge number to make me get scared of, oh my gosh, I can't charge somebody $250,000 in a year. You know, yeah, I can. give me a chance.
I mean, there's so much that goes into it, you know. When you are functioning as an outside consultant, as a contractor, there's so many other things that you have to deal with.
No,
Your upkeep is different when you're a contractor versus when you're working in-house. And okay, yes, if you want to hire me in-house, then that's cool. You're more than welcome to do that for me, and then you could, pay me, I don't know, 70, 80,000 a year, sure, to work in-house. That's cool. But there are certain things that we expect with contractors. And it's kind of funny that sometimes video game companies actually recognize that with other services. So, for example, I knew a guy, I won't mention his name, but back in the day, we used to do video game journalism. And one of the things that became rather lucrative with video game journalists is that they would be contractors, consultants that would figure out, okay, your game is going to be such and such game, such and such quality, and they'll provide an analysis of, this is where the market's going to be. This is what I'm seeing because, hey, I'm a journalist, which means I'm privy to early builds of other games that I'm seeing as well. And they'll happily pay these guys, $2,000, maybe $3,000 for essentially 2 days of work. Hey, I'm just going to visit the studio over the course of 2 days, 2 months before E3 hits. Hey, that's worth 2,000, right?
Yeah.
And they won't bat an eye at that.
Yeah.
And then you go to something like music and sound, which is pretty essential. And then, oh wait, let me sort of nip and tuck at all these numbers that you're giving me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm seeing that kind of in the reflection here in the GameSoundCon survey. One thing I thought was interesting and somewhat sad is that, if you look at the first graph, salaried employees, 50,000 and 150,000 are almost even. And
those are the two biggest peaks for salaried employees. Highest.
So what does that mean? I mean, how many people were surveyed? I mean, how many people are making, if it's based on an average, holy cow, that's a big disparity between 50 and 150,000 on average. And you can see it just tapers down, leads up to 50 and tapers down to 150.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually wondering about this. Salaried employees that are actually making 10,000 a year. Is that really a salary?
Yeah, that's too. Oh, we got that problem too. That's a good helpful note right there. Do you know, and I found this out, in the state of California, you have to meet 3 criteria to be a salaried employee.
Okay. And
I can't exactly say what the 3 are, but one of them is like you have the ability to hire and fire. Another one is you have people that you're managing to be salaried. If you don't have these 3 criteria, you're not to be a salaried employee. And what happens is people who are falling into this 10,000, 15,000 are being called salary, but they should be hourly. Because I guarantee you, if you're managing people and you have hire and fire and you're only making 10,000, you did something bad.
There's something wrong there
during your negotiation skills. So people should look into that because it is illegal in the state of California. It's not just in passing and companies can willy-nilly it. What I found is that a lot of companies use salary as a way of kind of giving you kind of an upper echelon kind of title. But in truth, you would make more money if you were doing hourly, and they don't want you doing hourly because they're going to, you might be working 12, 13 hours a day for the next 4 months, and they don't want to have to pay time and a half on that. I'm not at all suggesting that people rock the boat and cause problems. If you're happy with your job and you're happy with your salary, keep on going. But it is on the responsibility of the employer, not the employee, to make sure that you are legally categorized properly. And if you find that you are making $10,000 a year and you're working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, for, you know, that whole year. There's a lot of overtime that you had a right to, and people need to make sure of that. And so, and plus, last thing, when you do go in-house someplace and you're negotiating, you know, and they say to you, or if they say to you, okay, and we're going to make you a salary employee, you know, you have the right to bring it up and say, oh, wait a minute, I thought in the state of California that was illegal. And you will be absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta make sure they did that right. So why is it 50 to 150? Does that mean that there is a space? I mean, to be fair, 60,000, 70,000 is just a little bit below 50,000. So would you consider 50,000 to be kind of a regular audio engineer, and 60, 70 to start to get like into senior 1 and senior 2? 150 manager?
I don't know. I mean, the more I look at this, the more I'm thinking it's hard to account for all the possibilities. Like if you're in different parts of the United States, you know, you mentioned California.
Yeah.
You know, California salaries, they're going to be higher than elsewhere in the U.S. You know, it's different here versus if you're in Chicago or if you're in Minnesota or Texas. You know, so but then also, it actually doesn't say if this is only for the U.S. industry. I'm going to assume that it's the U.S. industry. But I was just, you know, it just sort of came to mind that, you know, different countries, you know, the Philippines, for example, has a pretty decent video game industry because they're kind of tech savvy. Also, they speak English pretty well over there. So they're often used for farming out content development and programming. What's a salary over there? Well, it is actually going to be more equivalent to something like 20 or 30,000 would be equivalent to, you know, a middle class living over there. So it's you know, things are a little bit different there.
That's true. I mean, if this is international, we have a lot of conversions, and obviously it's going to be based on a lot of states, although they do give a caveat. They say that the higher salaries tended to be correlated with descriptions such as management or audio director. I want to meet the less than 5 people making $300,000 a year who are audio. Vince, is that where you fall right there?
No.
Did you fill that out?
No, not at all. Not at all.
They should have that as a V rather than a column, just for That's what Mike's making, isn't it? It's Mike. He's secretly.
No, hold on. Mike is not salaried though, so his situation's a little different.
I'm teasing, which is where I'm moving on to.
There's some interesting things here, you know, besides the freelance thing.
That's where I was going. The freelancers.
Man, there's a lot of interesting things happening here. Let's see. Per unit royalties are still uncommon. Freelancers still do the work for, you know, AAA games require work for hire 97% of the time. I put a comment on the chat about PROs, so performing rights organizations, because that's a question that's come up a lot that I've noticed in some of the game audio forums recently. People are asking about PROs, which one is the best one to register with? Should I be allowed to register with a performing rights organization at all?
That's a great question.
So it's like, looking here, large budget games are more likely to register music with a PRO than smaller games. For large budget games, 35% of music was registered with a PRO. Wow. For professionally produced casual games, which is this really weird, nebulous thing, because we don't really have a good term for something that is not a AAA game and not done by a couple guys in the garage. It's kind of funny that 23% of that music was registered with the PRO. For indie games, 28% of music was registered with the PRO. That is amazingly low to me.
Yeah.
Really, really low.
So what's this? But does the composer have the rights to that music through a PRO? And that's why they're not being registered with the PROs, because the game company owns the music.
Well, I think if the game company is not allowing you to register with a performing rights organization, then they're just kind of ill-informed, because that registration shouldn't have a bearing on the bottom line when it comes to the budget for the game. You know, you are not let's say a game company is working on a working on a game. It gets music from from the music composer, and they're like, hey, we don't want you to register with a PRO. This is just our music. But if he does register with a PRO, it's not like the company actually has to shell any more money for that. The only ones that they're going to be dealing with are going to be the people that are going to be potentially performing, exhibiting that music outside of the game, not the company.
Yeah.
So, all the games that I've worked with, whether it be a big company like a Sony or a mid-sized company, they've all said, yeah, sure, please register the music with a PRO, or hey, we'll go ahead and register the music with a PRO for you. And of course, you will be entitled to your writer's share. There really isn't, it really doesn't hurt the game development budget bottom line to have the music registered with the PRO and you as the music composer having your writer's share.
No. And I don't think that can be taken away from you, your writer's share, even if.
Yeah. Well, you could sign it away if.
Gosh, but by default, I thought that I stink at this licensing stuff. But when you sell your music to a game company as a contractor to write the music for a game, unless the contract specifically says they're getting the writer's share, you can claim writer's share, right?
Yes.
Like, for instance, if the game company didn't have that in the contract and later said that, some of our in-house guys or gals wrote this music, you could argue in court and say, no, that's not true.
That happens, yeah.
So therefore, if you're going to get the writer's share anyway, I see what you're saying, that it's really not hurting them to register it. But if they want every penny they can get, then they would have to contractually say we have the rights to the writer's share, and then they register it as PRO. Or they could say, if they're being spiteful, I know I'm being negative here, but just giving both sides of the fence, they could say, okay, you own the writer's share, but we're never going to register it because, if you won't date me, you don't get to date anybody.
It's silly, it's this
horrible adage.
Yeah, I mean,
so they should register it and be kind, because it doesn't hurt anything to do it.
It really doesn't.
And you're ASCAP, right?
I am ASCAP, yeah.
I'm ASCAP as well. We should do a show on the benefits of, the pros and cons of both.
Yeah. And
or actually,
I know Mike has been itching to do such a show as well. So
it's BMI, ASCAP, and who else? Isn't there a third one?
Yes.
And can you sign up for all of them?
Actually, that's a good question. I know I'm ASCAP. I know there's different performing rights organizations in other places. I went with ASCAP because it seemed like ASCAP was actually pretty good about dealing with other places internationally. Like I've been able to get some royalties from JazzRack, which is the Japanese association,
nice.
And some other places. So ASCAP's been pretty good to me.
Now ASCAP does, yeah, they do a good job, and you do get a decent, check once in a while. But I'm prefacing because Mike does the funniest things. Like if you follow Mike's Facebook or something, he'll just post like something, hey, thank you, some place you've never heard of, for that 25 cents. He'll get some ASCAP check that's 25 cents or something. And it's what's really funny about it is not the price; it's the amount. It's the strange places where your music pops up being used, or some television show you didn't even know existed.
Yeah,
which means they're doing their work, right?
Oh man, TV shows, you just never know. Yeah, I've actually gotten a pretty decent check because of a TV show in France. It's like, nice. Oh, cool. Nice. That was nice. I mean, it wasn't like life changing, but it was like, oh, I can go to a nice dinner,
That's great.
And and treat a couple other people too. So nice. It was pretty nice. So yeah, PROs are good. Most of the big companies that I've worked with, like a Sony, they're totally cool with that. If it's a smaller company that thinks that you're taking away money from them, you have to convince them, no, you're not.
and also work it into your contract. Just, put it as a clause and say, if they don't like it and you negotiate it away, that's always something you can do in a contract. But you could just start with it there and just say, we've got this, I've got this clause here. I just want to make sure it's okay.
Yeah.
Explain to them. It's a great way to start the conversation as well.
Yeah.
But there's something else I wanted to talk about right here as we're on this, sadly.
Ooh.
The disparity of pay between male and female audio people.
Yes.
Sadly. But I did see the median year is different too. The fewer years you've been doing game audio, obviously you're going to be at a little bit of a lower pay. I don't know if a $20,000 jump is necessarily the right number, but they're saying here that let's go with the second one, median income from employers.
Wow, $20,000 difference.
20,000. Females at 45.
Income and median income. It seems like it's 20,000 between male and female.
20,000, and then the year difference is only 2.
Okay.
Median is 3, but 2 to 3 years difference for 20,000. So here's one thing it's tough about being in house though, is that you fall under their traditional raise rate, right? So you start in house and they may have a policy of 5 to 10% raise every year. And so if you start off at $10,000, 3 years later, if you did fantastically, you've made $3,000, so so it's really tough to get raises that keep you competitive inside a game company. When I was a programmer, there was a thing called a market raise, which was their way of saying the market has changed and we need to not lose you, so we're going to give you this raise that's outside of the policy. And I had that happen twice, and neither time was I leaving the company. It was just something they did, and I thought, well, that's really nice of them. But also, in my previous career as a programmer, I did jump from company to company about every 3 years, except for once or twice, because it was the only way you could get a decent raise. And of course, when I first started as a programmer, I made the whopping salary of $25,000 a year. So I needed to jump to start to kind of get that up where it was reasonable, and then also learn, new places. But game industry, it's not like you can go from, Sony San Diego over to, Rockstar North over to, Bethesda over to, it's not like you can just jump and jump and jump like you can as a programmer. So they got you by the short hairs in there a little bit.
That actually seems like that could be a pretty good question on a survey. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I would love to know how many people have done so many jobs. How long have they been at their current in-house gig? How many in-house gigs have they gone through? Because game audio is actually rather different from a lot of other game positions where, okay, I'm an artist and I'm moving between these studios actually rather quickly because I happen to be a concept artist, for example. Concept artists jump around a lot.
Yeah.
But game audio, music, sound, if you're an in-house guy, you're typically staying there for a pretty decent amount of time. And I'd love to see some more information on that.
Yeah, and can you go, again, back to that first chart, from 50,000 when you started to 150,000 by staying in-house and eventually becoming the audio director? Or will you end up, say, 5 years, 6 years in, you're the audio director and you just got 5% raises the whole time? Or do they now have an audio director who's making 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80,000? And you're not getting that salary bump,
Right.
So why is it so different? One thing about between male and female employees in game audio is there certainly are a lot more female doing it now than there were when I got started. And that's a fantastic thing. But unfortunately, the number was so low at the beginning that's why these years of women in game audio, years doing the job, is low as well. But I don't know, man. If I look at the median year in the industry for male and it says 8, and for female it says 5. And then I look at the median income for 8 years of it's 65 for male and 45 for female. That's like I said, that's a $20,000 disparity with only 3 years difference. That definitely tells me that unfortunately people are trying to get women at a lower salary.
Yeah, I wish I could disagree with you on that, but that really does seem to be the case.
I wonder if it's gosh, man, it's not like we're going to solve that problem here. It's existed for a long time, and certainly way too long. But
way more places than just games and audio.
Absolutely. But I wonder if it's like, if there's something that could be done about it, because I know that here's what I do. I try to put myself in that place and I go, okay, I'm going to try to negotiate so that I get an equal pay to a guy getting the job. But if I have to negotiate harder than that guy had to negotiate, I'm already kind of ticked off, because I shouldn't have to work twice as hard just to get paid an equal amount of money. So I wish there was some sort of like just legal precedent that loomed over the heads of companies so that they didn't even try to pull this move here. I mean, maybe there is, but I don't know about it. Right. It's terrible though to see.
Yeah, Chase in the chat room was just said very quickly, mentor more women who want to be in game audio, and I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's sometimes it's tough to have to to deal with all the questions and thoughts that are coming your way from people who are hobbyists, who are aspiring to get into the game world.
Yeah.
But I think being diligent about that and trying to really help them and be good about disseminating all the information that you've gathered is a good way to just make the industry better and make everything healthier.
Yeah.
And having more women in the industry is a big part of that.
Well, there's one more thing I want to bring up, and then we should take a break. Well, actually, I'll just take a break right now. Say thank you, Isotope, for sponsoring the show. We were going to do a giveaway this week, but Kyle Johnson forgot to do the artwork. So hold on till next week when I don't forget. And we'll be giving away. We don't tell what we give away, do we?
We'll tell you next week. Yeah.
All right. But we are absolutely tune in next week. There's no cancellations. So that leads me to the next part. We've had a bunch of cancellations, and it's been a sad time, kind of, at game. It's definitely been a sad time.
Kind of. I mean, there is an aspect of, oh man, there's so much crazy stuff happening in our lives. It's like, oh, work is good. We're busy, so that's a good thing. But
I know. But so Alex, I'm trying not to be kind of too emotional about it. So, well, sadly, Alex is not going to be on the show anymore. And Alex has had this awesome thing happen in his life. And the problem is that the time zone that he'll be in doesn't match our time zone. So we tried to work out a way that we could get it all to work. But we weren't able to, because of kind of keeping the show here where it is. People are tuned in and kind of used to it at this time slot. But that doesn't mean that Alex won't be on the show, because whenever he has a moment that he can, if he's up at some crazy hour, we love having him. But anyway, so Alex put together a video I have right here, and I'm going to share my screen, and Alex will explain what's going on. Let me get it. Sometimes I wish I just had my act together. Hold on, I'm starting a screen share. Tell me if you can see it, Vince. Can you see the screen share?
Not yet. Something's happened. Yes.
See it?
I see it.
All right. I hope the audio plays through. If not, I have my speakers on. Here we go. Let's give it a shot.
Guys, it's Alex. I have a bit of an announcement I wanted to make.
I'm going to pause right there. Sorry, Alex. Can you hear that okay, Vince?
Yep.
Okay, here we go.
And I'm sorry I can't actually be on the show today to do it in person. But in a few weeks, all being well, I'm going to be leaving Japan and heading across to Sweden. I'm going to be relocating to Stockholm. And it's really exciting, and there's a lot going on. What it unfortunately means is that because the broadcast time of the Game Audio Hour is very, very, very early in the morning in Stockholm, I'm not going to be able to contribute to the show any further for the meantime. So I just want to say thanks to everybody. I learned a whole lot. It's been a lot of great fun. I met a lot of great people. And you guys keep watching, and Vince, Mike, and Carl, you guys keep rocking. Thanks, and let's keep in touch. I'm atype808 on Twitter, so get in touch, and if you ever come to Sweden, let's meet.
I love the levity of that sound effect at the end. It just,
It's just so Alex.
yeah.
So let me get my speakers adjusted here. I hope everybody heard that.
It sounded pretty good to me. So
sadly, Alex won't be able to join us for a larger number of shows than we would prefer, because we'd prefer it was 100%. But I'm still going to keep trying to bug him by, like, let's do things like just text his phone at 2 in the morning and say, hey, we're on. Get out of bed.
Now we're going to, we're going to use our wonderful advertising dollars and send us all on a wonderful trip to Sweden.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do. That'll be great.
Well, since the one part that Alex didn't tell you is that he's now the CEO of King in Sweden, and he has graciously offered to fly all of us there every weekend that we prefer. And so, we're going this weekend, right, Vince?
Yeah, exactly. We got our G6 just waiting in the parking lot. Yeah.
G6, Jesus. Alex is so kind. Anyway, Alex, you will be missed majorly, and let's keep trying to get you on the show whenever you have some free time. Also, do some special shows, like just catch up with Alex, like do a non-live show and say, hey, where is he? Where in the world is Alex May?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. We would cut to him out in the snow with his parka, being all survivalist or something. I don't know.
I was watching a movie this weekend that I've seen before, and the soundtrack is fantastic. It's by the Chemical Brothers. It's a few years old. It's about a young girl whose dad teaches her to be an assassin.
Huh. Okay.
I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, the opening scene, or the opening few scenes, is they're living in basically like an igloo in this cabin that is just covered in snow all the time. And I think it's in Sweden. I think it's where they are, in Norway or something. And I just keep wanting to send Alex little pictures. Hey, you do know, right, that you are like 4 inches from the Arctic.
Oh man, there's some pretty good films that come out of there.
Dead Snow.
Dead Snow. I was thinking of, what is it? Insomnia. I think Insomnia came out of the original. Insomnia came out of Sweden, I believe.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Watch
before Robin Williams and those guys did their own remake, which was a pretty good remake, by the way.
I haven't seen it.
Oh. Well.
I've not seen it. I'm looking up this movie because you got to check this one out. It's pretty good. I'm not going to find it. I have too many movies. But anyway, watch Dead Snow. That's a great one out of Norway.
Dead Snow.
Troll Hunter is fantastic. I don't care who you are. People look at it and they see the box or something and they go, Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the one thing about Sweden, he's going to be closer to his kinfolk. All those tracker guys up in Scandinavia, that's Norway, true. Sweden, Finland. Yeah.
And it's cold outside, so they stay inside and track.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, sorry about all of the crazy things that we've been going through to try to get things scheduled, plus work schedules has caused us to have about 3 months of some instability, but we're back, and Mike is coming back. I'm going to say it next week because he's been traveling. I'm hoping he'll be back next week. Mike, no pressure if you can't.
Yeah.
And so we've thanked our sponsor. We've said thank you to Alex, and now I want to bring up one more thing about this survey and then move on to something else because we started a little late. Let's go 10 minutes over. Is that okay? 17.
Right. Sure.
This is very important. Music composition per minute rates. Did you see that one?
Oh yeah, that's somewhere over here. Let me.
I am both happy and really mad about it. Can I be opinionated? Like I'm not.
Oh, please.
$100? Who is offering $100 for a minute of music? Whoever you are, call me. We're going to have a talk about how important your skills are, how talented you are, how you need to get paid for that talent.
They do have a breakdown here of $100. The vast majority of those $100 per minute rates are for indie games.
Yeah.
And, it's, when it comes to those indie games, it's becoming more and more popular these days to, hey, we're going to go relatively cheap up front, and then there's a possibility on the back end.
All right.
Also, what are the music requirements? Because I can imagine if someone wanted me to do 10 minutes of music and he only had a couple $100 to do it. So yeah, let's just say I'm doing $20 a minute for a 10-minute soundtrack. I could make that worth my while by, all right, I'm going to lay down bass, drum loops, and then quick improvisation on electric keys, and then boom, and then I know how many hours I'm going to spend on that. I'll just kick this whole thing out the door within a day.
Yeah.
And then, so I mean, it's possible that it could work out that way, but yeah, at least on the face of it, yeah, I think you're right to feel very, very weird and maybe frustrated about these numbers here.
Well, I personally feel that anything below 500 should be cut off, whether you're indie or not. I know that's a little bit of a very strict thing to say, but imagine a world where nobody said that they were worth less than $500 for a minute of music. Then indies would pay that because that's what you're going to have to pay to get it, and it's good for us. It's good for them. Also, on the backside of indie, how many times does that pay off? How many independent companies start up and actually end up surviving past their first game? So don't fall for we're going to give you back end. It's kind of like when you negotiate an in-house salary and they tell you, yeah, but you're going to get a huge bonus when the game sells. And then you never negotiate on a bonus because there's no guarantee that's going to happen. There's no guarantee that the indie is going to give you anything on the back end. And if you write into a contract and they collapse, then it's worthless anyway. So the pay needs to be upfront. Now, it doesn't have to be money. That's the thing. Like, I've done plenty of gigs for a piece of equipment. And I say this wholeheartedly and honest. There isn't a piece of $100 equipment that I want. So right away, I'm already in the 200, 300, maybe, I'm looking at a 500 series module that I worked to get. And I know that thing goes for a little bit over 500. So, it was easy for them to pay me in that module. And there we go. Now I fall into that $500 mark. So I just suggest that people really be careful about the back end stuff. But Vince, you're absolutely right. I think that is what's happening is we've got somebody who wants to get some experience doing game audio. Bravo, absolutely. But they don't know how to negotiate necessarily. And the harder part of that is when they go to negotiate, they don't have that background to stand on. They can't say, oh, I've done 50 games. And so, I know my price is right. And what ends up happening is that browbeating starts to happen of the company saying, it usually starts off nice and they say, we really love your stuff, but your price is just too much. And then if you keep pushing, then they go, you know what, we're just going to look someplace else. And then you buckle because you need the experience and but when you're getting started, just make sure that you keep your day job. Don't make yourself so hungry that you have to say yes to $100 and a false back end.
There is one thing here. I noticed that, the biggest column is for a 100, but also there are literally 0 people that said that they did 0 per minute.
That's
and
true.
I'm actually very surprised by that because I can think much more easily about agreeable situations for doing 0 per minute than doing 100 per minute. So if you are working with friends and friends are just working on a game, they have no budget. Okay, we are working together as friends. You're doing music for 0 per minute, but everyone is investing in the game at 0 per minute, at 0 per line of code, whatever.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I actually think that that is a great way to do it. You know, okay, you're doing a game jam and everyone is just working together, and you know that that's what's happening. Everyone is just putting their efforts in. There is no money there, and it's only about one positive thing there, which is building a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool, and I'm surprised that that column isn't represented at all in this survey.
Yeah, I agree. And if it's friends that you're working, not a game jam example, but if you're getting paid nothing to help a friend or a group of friends get their game out, those are the people who will pay you on the back end. Those are the people who do want to celebrate. I'm talking about non-friends, just indie companies. You know, I know a lot of people will comb Kickstarter for any kind of new game that comes out and just run up there and say, hey, let me do your stuff. And that's a smart move, actually. That's a really smart thing. But a lot of those game companies are looking, you know, to cut corners where they can. They got to save as much money. They're going to manufacture something, and it's, you know, that's going to cost money. But your friends are going to keep their promise. As for a game jam, though, I don't feel that falls inside any kind of employment. I mean, isn't that just everybody's free for that no matter what?
Yeah,
it doesn't qualify for this.
Yeah, but that's also, those game jams are also the things that could lead to friendship, because that's about building relationships. And then once you get people caring about you, you know, that's really important. You know, just people caring about each other, and that's the real benefit there.
Definitely do game jams, absolutely. And by the way, Frida has a regular game audio thing going on in LA. I'm so glad she's doing it. Unfortunately, I live so far away, I haven't made one yet, but I want to. And you know, as we talk about the power of a game jam is to network. So are getting out and doing the dinners and get-togethers.
Yeah, relationships.
And also, we have a barbecue coming up in September. My wife and I are finalizing the details, and then I will announce.
Oh yes. Game
Audio Hour barbecue at my house. I don't have a pool. I'll pull out a kiddie pool, jump in that. So that's that on that, isn't it? That's oh no, the final thing was the whole point of being me and my delivery is terrible. Look how many people are charging $1,000 for a minute of music. That's going average, if you will. And that was really cool to see that that's the second highest. It goes 100 is the highest, 1,000 is the next highest. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And as you so astutely pointed out, it's the pro casual market that's paying the 1,000. A little bit large budget studios are paying $1,000 to $1,250.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also, there's a decent amount of indies also. Yeah, I mean, it's slowly getting up there.
That is. But those are the kind of I know. I'm sorry, Vince. This might seem somewhat of a moniker you guys don't like there, but it isn't like triple indie. Is that what the indie companies that have done successfully?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's probably the triple indies that are paying. That we're seeing there in the indie crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But good. Hey, man, listen. 100 might be the tallest for indies, but the next tallest is 300. And now we're starting to talk about some reasonable pay. You're going to get some exposure through indies. 300 seems like a reasonable. 400 is tall too.
Yeah, that's really cool. You know, it's nice to see that these guys, you know, they're really actually perceiving the value.
Absolutely. All right. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and it is short, is Smaart. Have you used Smaart software to tone your room?
I have not used Smaart software. I have used software. I am a big proponent of IK Multimedia's thing that they do.
Cool.
And I use that to correct the stuff that's happening on my computer in real time, and it's been pretty great. It's survived a couple computers, it's survived a couple of different interfaces that I've been using, and it just makes things sound better. But tell me about Smaart.
Well, I was going to ask about IK. So, but it makes the adjustments to the software so that the sound coming out of your speakers is adjusted for the room, right?
Yes, that is correct.
But say you have a bunch of bass that piles in the back, it can't do anything about that, right? Or do your speakers just give less of a bass energy?
Yeah, I mean, my speakers are not big. I've never, I don't use subwoofers. I actually don't use, I mean, my current monitors are actually 6 inches. So, yeah, it
I
can
use
actually
fives.
do a pretty decent job of handling bass. It's, yeah, I mean, there's, how shall I say? In my previous room, that thing was actually pretty bad. You know, there were some really bad corners where things would get just really bad. And I did put some bass traps there, and that helped a bit. It wasn't absolutely perfect. I found that using IK Arc 2, which is that's the name of the product, Arc 2, actually did a really good job of cleaning it up and just making my room that much better. And more importantly, it just sounded really good in translating to other places where I would listen to stuff, like my friend's studio, my car, you know,
Yeah.
consoles in different rooms. It was just great.
And you're so the way these softwares work is that you set up a microphone, a monitoring microphone, kind of a super flat response microphone.
Yep.
And then they run through all of this pink noise and gather up the frequencies. And some of them will go pink noise and brown noise and just switch around and try to figure out what that microphone is hearing. And it might hear too much 1K or something, but it is where that microphone is seated.
Yes.
So if you set up your monitors the way you're supposed to, at the angles you're supposed to, at the height you're supposed to, your tweeters at your ears, and put that microphone where you'll be sitting, in the case of Vince's software, it's going to adjust the frequencies coming out of those speakers so that it's hitting him at that place as perfect as possible. Now, if Vince gets up and goes to the back of the room and listens, it's not going to be accurate because you didn't have the mic back there.
Yep.
What Smaart does, and another one called RoomWizard, and I'll put this in the show notes and the chat window in a minute, is instead of doing some sort of frequency correction that's going to come out of the speakers, it's just giving you information and saying that, okay, when you had the mic in this location 1, the bass was too much, and that might be the back of the room. Location 2, the bass was fine, but 100K is too much, you know. And then it wants you to then put up panels and make adjustments to your room so that no matter where you are in your room, it should be perfect, you know. And if you have a room like mine, I've got, you guys can't tell, but my ceiling kind of leans in at a weird angle and the walls close in slightly. So it was constructed for audio. That's one of the things you can do. But the idea of panels is to also, as you can see this one right here, is at a really weird angle to that corner because I was getting too much bass in the corner. And so there's things you can do to kind of even more cause weird angles on your room. And you need a software like RoomWizard or Smaart to figure that out. I still, because my subwoofer is under my desk and my desk sits about 3 feet off. It's one of those Argosy desks, so it's kind of high. When I sit back on the producer couch, that subwoofer just has a direct shot at me, and I need to change that. The back of the room doesn't gather a lot of bass because I balanced it, but then the subwoofer is practically pointed right at my ear holes, and it's just like, so I have to remember to turn off my subwoofer. But anyway, so you can get these microphones. I borrowed a friend of mine, and I was going to show it to you, but then I used it for my camera because I'm smart like that. But it is a Behringer microphone, and it's just a flat microphone. I think it costs like $75 or something. I know that Presonus also has one, and here's a cool thing. I just picked one of these up, and this is what leads to this whole thing. Well, actually, since I have this, so I just picked this guy up here.
Oh man, is it? Oh, that's a console, huh?
It's the Presonus 3242 Jobby. I did a live gig with my friend Matt Brownlee, and we needed a board, and I was looking for something anyway. So cool. It's pretty cool. What's cool about this is it comes with Smaart software built in, and Smaart is not cheap, man. So if you go to buy it, it's expensive. But if you get a board, the Presonus boards, it comes with it. So that was pretty cool.
Oh,
and of course, yeah, and of course I'll put this here for a minute so I can show you the mic. And of course the The RoomWizard, Room EQ Wizard does the same stuff. So here's the microphone. This is
It's just one of those ECM 8000s. I know those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Works just fine for this, you know. Just a little pencil condenser. But it picked up. So we did this live show and we were doing it in an art gallery. We set up the mic. This PreSonus has a wizard you walk through for their Smaart software, and so I imagine it's very similar to the wizard that Smaart probably has. But it tells you where to place the mic, and it starts playing this noise over the speaker system, the pink noise, and then it shows you an EQ curve of what's going on. And once you have that EQ curve, like it may be high at the 1K, you then go into this mode on this board, and you would do this with software where you're looking at a flat curve and you do the exact opposite of that. So every time the EQ curve goes up to 1K, you would take your little manual correctors and go down at 1K by the same amount. And so you're basically creating for a live affair the same thing that your speakers are doing. It's creating a global EQ to make the room so it doesn't hit into these offensive frequencies. For a room like this, what you do is you get that curve and you find out the locations because you put your mic in 3 different places, and then you just say, okay, I got to get rid of 1K right where I'm sitting. How am I going to do that? And you start putting up panels and float some clouds and try to figure out how to get rid of that frequency. There's a studio in it's called Hybrid Studios down in Orange County. Famously, their control room is so perfectly balanced that no matter where you go in that room while music is playing, it's the same EQ. So it doesn't get more bassy here and a little bit more trebly there. It is the same no matter where you're seated. Seated.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I want to do here.
That's a feat that, you know, I would actually want to test that. Like, is it really, if I decide to stand on the other side of the console, is it going to sound like that? I'm actually wondering that.
Yeah, the other side of the console, well, you're on the back side of the speaker, so you'd have to be in front of the speakers.
Okay, I know.
But,
I'm being silly, but yeah.
Gotcha. But they are saying, I'm trying to get this link for the live chat. I haven't been there. I want to check it out. But but I was watching a thing called Produce Like a Pro with Warren Hewart, and he was there, and he was talking about how he kind of doubted it at first in a very polite way, and then actually worked there, and he was blown away by how accurate it was. His story is he was seated on the couch in the back and went up to the desk to make a change or something, and he realized that he was hearing the exact same thing at the desk that he was hearing way back in the back of the room. And they have a really big control room.
Yeah, man, it looks it. I'm just going to link this in the chat room. They got a couple pictures there, and it does look cool. Nice big old SSL console.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I'd love to go there.
900 square foot control room. That is
right?
A pretty good size control room. That
my studio in New York, when we lived in New York, we had a brownstone, and it had one of those garden apartments, and I had the entire garden apartment, which is one of those that like comes off. You know, you walk off the sidewalk downstairs to go under the house, kind of like you would think you're going to a basement, but that entire place was 500 square feet, and I thought I was in heaven. And that was my live room, control room, everything. And here, this is just their control room, and it's 900.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, their control room is big enough that if you want to record a nice chamber orchestra in there, you probably could.
Yeah. You know, they did something really brilliant at Hybrid as well. They have a sound stage. I mean, I think that this is for another show, but we're at a place where I think recording studios, people are seeing the need for recording studios, you know. Certainly you can go to your, I'm sorry, I'm still locked on me. Certainly you can go to your, you know, we've built these bedroom studios, and that's fantastic that technology has allowed us to do it. But we still can't record a chamber orchestra. We still can't record a drum set. We still can't record more than 2 people, you know, in our home studios. And so you need to have a little live room. And in my case, it's converting the garage into a live room. So now I can get like 6 people in there, and that's about it. You know, so even my needs, if I want to like do a project where it was everybody playing all at the same time, I still need to go someplace else. And I think recording studios are starting to find a footing again. What they did here at Hybrid, which is brilliant, is they built a soundstage as well. Because now you're going to a recording studio, you're also doing film work there. They've got one of those infinity walls, or I can't remember what they call those.
Oh yeah, yeah, the infinity walls, just
Psych walls. Yeah.
perfectly lit. Yeah.
So that's hybrid. Anyway, so if anybody wants help with doing the audio setup, please do contact me, Kyle at moontechstudios.com. I'm sure Vince has a lot of questions and are a lot of answers to your questions as well. But I don't want to throw him under the bus by giving away all of his email addresses.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool.
Cool.
Hey, like quite honestly, if you want to chat with me, if you just go to vincentdiamante@gmail. I mean, I do respond to chat as well.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, good point.
But yeah, I'm looking at this because I was a big fan of the IK software, but now I'm also looking at this Room EQ Wizard, and it looks pretty cool too. And the IK software is pretty nice. It does come with a microphone,
nice.
which is nice, and it is pretty painless to set up. But it's hard to beat free if you have a good flat measurement mic, and those things are not expensive these days. Man, this software looks cool. So I'm gonna check this out because I know I've got my home workstation could use some messing around with.
Yeah, yeah. And they give a lot. If you go to the features page of Room EQ Wizard, it's just filled with pictures of what you're going to see. There's so much detail they give you. And also, I don't know if anybody's in the, this is my first PreSonus thing, and I got to say, I'm pretty impressed. The mic pre's are actually really transparent. I was really happy with that. Very happy with that, because that's what I want out of a mic pre. I want my EQs and my compressors to do the work. I don't really want to color, unless I'm going to use some traditional Neve or SSL that has a sound. But PreSonus isn't, it's not like Ziggy Stardust was recorded on a PreSonus board. So I don't want PreSonus's mic pre's to make any noise. And they were really flat. I'm really, really impressed with that. The build of this thing is really very solid. It's a live mixer, so there's no motorized faders, or anything like that. But if anybody's in the mood to get a little 16 channel of this or something, right now they're doing a deal, and you can do these on payments. I got this through Z-Sounds on the year thing, so I'm just paying. I literally am paying $80 a month just for a year.
Oh yeah, this is what you mentioned before. Okay.
Yeah. When I buy things like this that aren't kind of I don't know. I'm really happy with it. Don't get me wrong. I'm really impressed with it. But there's in my head, there's these things that that are real flashy gear, and then there's the stuff that's kind of I'll just pay that off over a year. This is one of those things. It's a really great deal. But what I'm getting at is that PreSonus about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, announced that when you buy one of these, they're going to give you a package of things, and it comes with a measurement microphone, some headphones. There's this whole thing that comes. All these extras that there's some holes right here where you can screw in a stand so you can put an iPad. Because by the way, this all works via wireless. So you can get on your iPad and walk around the live place and adjust the EQ depending upon where you're standing. So I did that for the live show as well. Really, really great piece of gear.
Oh man, that sounds really nice.
Well, with that, if anybody's interested, there's how you just check out PreSonus, check out Sweetwater, check out Z-Sounds, check out AMS, all those things. Vince, it's great seeing you. Going to see you next week.
Yeah, next week. Let's do it.
And we're going to give away. Oh wait, I'm not going to say anything yet.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Also fun to taunt Mike with. Oh, it's going to be something that inevitably he will want.
I think we already know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, a last thing, Alex. Thank you so much. Don't be a stranger. Be on the show as often as you can. You think I'm kidding about calling your phone at 2 a.m. just to see if you want to be on? Oh, I can't do that. He's got little ones. If you were single, even just married, no kids, I'd pay the toll.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, he's got the 2 kids, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're off. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, chatties. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.